If Elon Musk found himself stripped of everything, his empires dissolved, his reputation erased, his possessions gone, he wouldn't crumble. He would pause. Not because he is indifferent to loss, but because he understands the difference between possession and power. Real power is never external. It resides within the mind that created everything in the first place. While most would spiral into fear, Musk would treat this moment as sacred, a rare reset, a chance to prove once again that the true engine of wealth isn't capital, connections, or credentials. It's consciousness. His first instinct wouldn't be to search for income, but to return to alignment. He'd step into silence, not to escape reality, but to recalibrate it. In solitude, he would reforge his self-image. Because a man's outer world is only ever the echo of his inner voice. And his voice would declare, with quiet certainty, "This is the beginning of something greater." Elon has always seen the mind as a frequency tuner. Thoughts are not idle musings. They are signals broadcast into the world. And those signals shape perception, decision, and destiny. So he would start by upgrading the frequency he operates from, not to sound mystical, but because this is science. When the brain is wired for expectancy, the eyes begin to notice what others miss. The brain becomes a radar for opportunity. And he would know, attracting wealth starts not with effort, but with perception. He wouldn't affirm surface-level mantras or chase shallow motivation. He'd go deeper, into identity, into belief systems, into mental architecture. Because before you can build empires outside, you must demolish the limits inside. He would question every lingering thought of doubt, every trace of dependency, every learned limitation. Then, he would replace them with internal truths forged by fire. That creation is his nature, that value is his compass, that progress is inevitable when aligned with purpose. This mindset is not fantasy. It is forged through clarity. He would ask himself the hard questions most avoid. Who must I become to attract wealth without chasing it? What version of me does money naturally move toward? What thoughts, emotions, and intentions do I need to embody now? Not when I succeed, but today. Musk wouldn't merely visualize goals. He would step into them. He would act, think, and feel as though the wealth already existed. Not as make-believe, but as programming. Because when the brain is fed certainty, it responds with confidence. And confidence is the gateway to action that feels inevitable. Instead of panic, he would enter a mental state of curiosity. Not how will I survive, but what am I being invited to create next? Because wealth, to Elon, is not a reward. It is a side effect, a consequence of bold answers to hard problems. He would understand that the moment he aligns with solution thinking, he becomes a magnet for resources. He wouldn't sit in self-pity. He would sit in self-mastery. He would study his thoughts like a scientist examines particles. He would remove any trace of mental noise that whispers scarcity. Every belief that begins with "I can't," "it's too late," or "I don't have," would be dissected, disproved, and discarded. Because those beliefs are not truths. They are echoes of fear. And fear has no seat at the table of future millionaires. Instead of seeking security, he would seek power, the kind that no one can revoke. Not dominance over others, but mastery over self. He would know that when your inner world is ruled by clarity, discipline, and intention, your outer world begins to arrange itself around your convictions. Elon would become intentional about what he consumes. Not just food or media, but ideas. He would guard his mental space like a fortress. Only thoughts that elevate, challenge, and empower would be allowed in. Because the mind is soil. And wealth, like anything else, grows only from the right seeds. He would set an inner standard, not of how much he needs to make, but how deeply he must believe. That standard would become his gravity. And from that gravity, the right opportunities, people, and resources would start to orbit him. Not by coincidence, but by design. This is the magnetic mindset. Not a mystical force, but a neurological pattern. A way of thinking so disciplined, so focused, and so unwavering that the world bends in response. When you walk into a room with vision, you don't beg for attention. You command it. When you speak from certainty, doors open not because of who you are, but because of what you radiate. Elon wouldn't try to convince the world of his worth. He would embody it. And in doing so, the world would remember him. Not because of what he lost, but because of who he became when there was nothing left to lean on but thought. He knows the secret that few ever accept. Wealth is not found, it is attracted. Not through noise, but through signal. Not through chaos, but through clarity. And clarity begins in the quiet, with a single choice: to believe before there's proof, to see before it exists, to walk like it's already real. That is where Elon Musk would begin. Not on the outside, but at the source, inside the mind, where wealth is first imagined, then invited, then inevitable. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. Mastering Observation. Finding the Hidden Gold. Elon Musk, stripped of status and stripped of safety, would not rush into action. He would step into awareness. His most powerful tool now would not be capital or code. It would be his eyes, his ears, his presence. While others race to be seen, Elon would choose to see. He would walk slowly, not aimlessly. Each step deliberate. Each street a classroom. Each stranger a silent teacher. His eyes would scan not for inspiration, but for irritation. Not for what is beautiful, but for what is broken. Because he knows that wealth hides where people are too numb to look. He wouldn't carry himself like a man seeking charity. He would move like a student of systems, watching, mapping, decoding. In silence, he would gather the raw materials of reinvention. Inconvenience, inefficiency, inconsistency. Because the clues to his next empire are not behind closed doors, they are scattered in plain sight. He would visit laundromats and bus stations, supermarkets and waiting rooms. Not because they are glamorous, but because they are honest. They reveal what the polished world hides. They are where time is wasted, patience is tested, and needs are unmet. In these places, Musk would not speak. He would listen. He would watch how people interact with technology, where they get stuck, where they sigh, where their faces tense in subtle frustration. These are not moments most people notice, but to Elon, they are flashing signals. Each complaint, a flare in the night sky calling for a solution. He would not judge. He would collect, noting each flaw in a mental notebook. Why does this take so long? Why is this interface so clumsy? Why has no one fixed this yet? He would observe patterns. A mother struggling to book an appointment. A delivery driver overwhelmed by inefficient routes. A student battling with clunky online portals. Small problems that, when multiplied by millions, become oceans of opportunity. Oceans most never swim in, because most never look beneath the surface. Observation to Musk is not passive. It is predatory. Not in the sense of exploitation, but in precision. Like a hawk watching wind patterns before the strike. He is not waiting for ideas to come. He is extracting them from the noise. He would turn cafes into data centers, subways into focus groups, parks into research labs. Every environment becomes a landscape of latent needs. Because he knows that the next million-dollar breakthrough does not emerge in brainstorm rooms. It begins in sidewalks, checkout lines, and overheard conversations. Musk would treat these moments like fragments of code waiting to be compiled. And as he gathers more, the invisible begins to form a structure. He doesn't need to guess what the market wants. He lets the market whisper to him. Through gestures, through friction, through fatigue. He would write constantly. Not thoughts or ideas, but evidence. Daily logs of what doesn't work, what breaks down, what wastes energy. This is not romantic. It is rigorous. Wealth, in his view, belongs to those who treat life like a puzzle. Not waiting for inspiration, but building it piece by piece, with data. He understands that most people are too distracted to notice the obvious. They walk past gold buried beneath their feet because they're looking for diamonds in the sky. But Elon, he digs where others scroll. He sees where others stare blankly. He listens without reacting. And in that stillness, the world reveals its cracks. The brilliance is in the boredom. That's where the gold hides. Not in spectacular explosions of creativity, but in the subtle pain points that no one bothered to solve. He would know that fortunes are built not from genius, but from noticing what others tolerate. Observation is leverage, because when you understand what people need before they do, you hold the power to create value that feels inevitable. That's not intuition. That's awareness. He would sharpen this awareness like a blade, each day refining it, noticing faster, deeper, with more nuance. He would see not just what people do, but why they do it. What motivates them? What slows them down? What triggers hesitation? This level of attention cannot be faked. It must be trained.
And Musk, now with nothing to lose, would train like a monk.
His commitment to observation would be absolute. Because while others seek attention, he seeks comprehension. And those who comprehend the world most deeply, shape it most powerfully. Observation would become his compass. Not ideas, not instincts, not trends. Just clear, sober, unfiltered data from the real world. He would detach from assumptions, from bias, from ego. He would let the facts lead him.
And in time, the patterns would emerge,
like stars forming constellations.
What begins as noise becomes a signal.
What seemed random becomes inevitable. And that signal, it's the blueprint,
the outline of something the world silently begs for, without knowing how to ask.
That is where Elon Musk would begin building, not from ambition, but from precision. Not from hype, but from hard, boring, invaluable clarity.
Because in the end, those who notice the pain that others ignore become the architects of what everyone eventually needs.
And that's where the first million is born. Not in motion, but in mastery of perception. Solving real pain, not chasing trends. If Elon Musk lost it all today, his companies, his connections, his credibility, he wouldn't scroll through trending hashtags hoping to catch a wave. He wouldn't sign up for the latest marketing course or try to build a brand around shallow virality. His time is too valuable for that. And more importantly, he knows that real wealth doesn't come from popularity, it comes from relevance, from usefulness, from solving actual human pain. He would ask one question: where is the pain people live with because no one dares to fix it? Not the glamorous pain, not the shiny, social media-friendly problems. The stubborn pain, the ones hidden behind closed doors, buried in customer service complaints, or felt in the silent frustrations of everyday life. The kind of pain people have come to accept as normal. That's where he'd begin. Elon doesn't fall for novelty. He's not impressed by noise. He's obsessed with clarity. And clarity comes from peeling back the layers of a problem until nothing remains but the core issue. The part that makes people groan, avoid, procrastinate, or settle. He would not care how old the problem is. In fact, the older the better. The longer something has remained broken, the more people have built their lives around it. That's opportunity. That's leverage. If no one wants to deal with it because it's boring or complicated, that's exactly where he'd double down. He knows that when something is painful enough to be ignored, it's also profitable enough to be disrupted. Musk would approach these challenges with first principles thinking, his signature move. He wouldn't just patch the problem. He would rip it apart, deconstruct it to its molecular level, break every assumption society has about why it has to be this way. If there's a service that takes 5 steps to complete, he'd ask why it can't be done in 1. If a process requires people to wait, he'd question the necessity of the wait. If a product causes friction, he'd wonder why it was ever built that way to begin with. First principles thinking doesn't just fix what's broken, it reimagines what's possible. Most entrepreneurs ask, how can I make this slightly better? Elon asks, why does this exist at all? He wouldn't go for trending industries like influencers, luxury dropshipping, or viral content creation. He's not looking to be liked, he's looking to be needed. Because when you create something people truly need, you don't have to fight for attention. The world comes to your door. He would look for pain points in logistics, outdated healthcare processes, flawed communication systems, educational barriers, or inefficient service industries. Sectors that no one talks about at dinner parties. That's where real money hides. Not in trending apps but in neglected infrastructures.
And Musk would move with conviction.
Once he found a problem worth solving, he wouldn't ask for permission. He wouldn't form committees or wait for the perfect time. He would commit to the solution as if his life depended on it. Because to him, solving a painful problem is not a business opportunity, it's a moral duty. He would build with an attitude that says, "This should have been solved 10 years ago, and I refuse to let it go another 10. This is the mindset that separates builders from opportunists. Musk isn't chasing dopamine hits from likes or retweets. He's chasing systemic improvement. He wants to bend reality, not fit into someone else's idea of what's cool. If someone told him, "But nobody's doing that," he would smile. That's the point. If a market looked untouched, he'd see it as underappreciated, not unprofitable. Because he's not scanning for existing demand. He's uncovering buried need. The kind people don't even realize they have until a better alternative is placed in front of them. He doesn't chase markets. He creates them. That's how PayPal started. That's how SpaceX was born. That's how Tesla disrupted giants. None of it was born from what was popular. All of it began from noticing what was painful and doing something intelligent about it. And when you're the person who relieves that pain, you never have to beg for business. People will line up. They will switch providers. They will change habits. Because you've made their lives meaningfully better. And no trend can compete with that. Solving real pain creates loyalty. Creates trust. It creates ecosystems where people invest not just their money, but their belief. And in a world drowning in shallow content and trend-chasing mediocrity, belief is the most valuable currency. That's what Elon would bet on, not the algorithm, not the fad of the week, but the universal human tendency to move toward relief, toward ease, toward solutions that work. He would become the architect of that relief. And he wouldn't stop until the painful became effortless, until the clunky became seamless, until the forgotten became the foundation of something radically better. Because in the end, wealth doesn't flow to the trendsetters. It flows to the pain solvers. And Elon Musk? He's always solving what others pretend isn't broken. The lean start. No office. No excuses. If Elon Musk had to rebuild his empire from the dirt, without a dime to his name, he wouldn't flinch at the absence of an office or team. He wouldn't spend days sketching logos or nights scrolling through overpriced co-working spaces. He would strip away every excuse and reduce the act of building to its rawest form, doing what matters with what's available. He would start where he stood. No funding. No problem. No headquarters. Unnecessary. No perfect plan. Irrelevant. He wouldn't search for investors. He'd search for movement. Because momentum, not money, is what breathes life into an idea. Musk would understand that the early stages of creation don't require comfort. They demand clarity. He'd take his first steps in the grittiest of places. A public library. A noisy cafe. A borrowed desk in someone else's apartment. These would become his launch pads. Not because they were ideal, but because they were real. Accessible. Immediate. He wouldn't delay his progress for decor. He wouldn't pause to polish a pitch deck. The traditional tools of corporate dreaming would be ignored. Instead, he would embrace resourcefulness like a weapon. Free tools, open-source platforms, trial software, spreadsheets, these would become the bricks in his first foundation. He'd write code if he needed to, design crude prototypes, mock up solutions with duct tape if necessary. The priority would be utility, not appearance. In this phase, Elon wouldn't care about elegance. He'd care about response. Does it work? Can someone use this? Will anyone pay me for this result, even if it's basic? He knows that perfection is procrastination dressed as professionalism. And waiting to launch until everything looks polished is the death sentence of momentum. That's not how empires are built. That's how dreams stay locked inside hard drives. He'd approach strangers in cafes or online forums, asking for feedback. Not begging for validation, but listening for honesty. He wouldn't fear criticism. He'd crave it. Because every rough opinion, every hard truth, would become fuel for refinement. If someone said, "This feels clunky," he'd fix it by morning. If they said, "I don't get it," he'd rewrite the pitch by noon. Speed and feedback, those would be his currencies. He wouldn't be discouraged by small wins. A single user? That's proof. A $10 transaction? That's a market signal. In a world obsessed with scaling fast, he would scale right. That means earning trust one person at a time, not throwing cash at ads hoping something sticks. He wouldn't build for hypothetical users. He'd build for one real person with a real problem and go from there. No logo. No launch party. No 6-month plan. Just version 1.
Musk understands that empires begin not with applause, but with resistance.
With things breaking. With users confused. With late nights filled with doubt. And still you show up. Still you build. He would remind himself, if it takes millions to start, it's not a business, it's a fantasy. He would treat his time like capital.
His hours would be measured not by busyness but by output.
He wouldn't check metrics. He'd make things that work. That solve something so clearly that someone is willing to pay right now. His metric of success in this lean phase wouldn't be followers or traffic. It would be feedback loops, conversations, transactions, iterations. He'd take screenshots of every message from a user who says, "This helped me." That's how he'd stay fueled. Not by vanity metrics, but by real progress. Elon would know that no office ever made a product valuable. No sleek pitch deck ever made someone open their wallet. What matters is utility. Does it make life easier, better, faster, clearer? If yes, you don't need a building. You need belief and execution. He'd build in public. Share the journey. Let people see the ugly version, the messy process. He wouldn't pretend to be a polished founder. He'd show the truth of building from zero, because that vulnerability builds trust faster than a polished ad ever could. The lean phase isn't glamorous, but it's sacred. It's where resilience is born. It's where the ego dies. It's where humility and hunger fuse into grit. And that grit becomes the fuel for the long climb ahead. So while others wait for funding, he would fund his ideas with sweat. While others seek permission, he would seek action. While others dream, he would do. No office. No comfort. No illusion of safety. Just bold steps, messy tests, and real progress. Because for Elon, the absence of luxury is not a limitation. It's a sharpening.
When there's nothing to lose, there's everything to gain. And from that fire, the future is forged. Building value before wealth. If Elon Musk were to begin again with no money, no name, and no influence, he wouldn't start by chasing checks or investors. He'd start by planting seeds of value, quietly, deliberately, and relentlessly. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only soil from which sustainable wealth grows. He wouldn't measure his progress by dollars, but by depth. By how many people he could help. By how clearly he could illuminate the path for others stuck in confusion or stagnation. He would operate from the timeless truth that money is not the cause. It's the consequence. And that consequence only arrives after someone has truly served. He would not try to sell first. He would give. Not giveaways, not empty inspiration, but actual transformation. Practical clarity. Insight that cuts through the noise. Perspective that shifts paradigms. If he wrote, it wouldn't be fluff, it would be fire.
Words that make people stop scrolling. Thoughts that challenge assumptions. Tools that provoke action. He would give people something they didn't know they needed until it hit them in the mind like lightning. A better way to see their problems. He would begin creating content not to entertain, but to awaken. Not to attract attention, but to spark recognition. The goal would not be popularity. It would be usefulness. He would observe the subtle questions people are too afraid to ask. The insecurities hidden beneath their online posts. The confusion behind their endless searches for the next big thing. And then he would step in, not as a salesman, but as a guide. And guides don't demand trust. They earn it. Through precision. Through care. Through consistency. Every piece of content, every line of code, every product draft. Musk would ask himself one brutal question. Does this make someone's life better in a way they'll never forget? That would be his compass. Not likes. Not shares. But impact. He wouldn't just talk at people. He'd listen. He'd watch for patterns in the comments. Hidden requests between the lines. What are people really struggling with? What are they silently hoping someone will finally address? Then he would act.
quietly, thoughtfully, creating not for the masses, but for the few who are ready to move. And when those few find something that shifts them, even slightly, they tell others. That's how real value spreads. Not through noise, but through meaning. He wouldn't worry about going viral. Virality fades. Trust compounds. He would know that in a world obsessed with quick wins, the rarest currency is reliability. So he'd show up daily. Not with gimmicks, but with grounded truth. That slow, steady rhythm would become the heartbeat of something far more powerful than a trend. It would become a movement. He would not market features. He would solve feelings. Not this tool helps you organize your week, but this process frees your mind from chaos. Not look what I built, but here's how I cracked the code I used to struggle with. The distinction is everything. Features fade. Freedom sells. And with each genuine solution, Musk would gain something even more valuable than money. Attention filtered through trust. People don't buy when they're sold to. They buy when they believe. They follow when they feel seen. They share when they've been served. Elon would build content ecosystems that lead, not lure. Articles, voice messages, short videos, diagrams, frameworks. Not flashy, just effective. The kind people bookmark. The kind they email to friends at 2 a.m. with a subject line like, "You need to see this." That's value. And from that value comes conversation. From conversation comes connection. And from connection comes commerce. Not once would he ask, "How do I make more money?" Instead, he'd ask, "How can I make someone's day 10% easier? Their mind 20% clearer? Their effort 30% more effective?" Those questions lead to real business models. Because money is not pulled from thin air. It flows from momentum created by service. It rushes toward clarity, toward action, toward people who take the time to understand deeply and then respond precisely. He would not post for followers. He would publish for leaders. People who take what he says and run with it, implement it, and when they succeed, they remember who helped them cross the gap. That's how loyalty is formed. That's how referrals are born. That's how business stops being a transaction and becomes a tribe. Musk would measure value not by applause, but by application. Who used what I made? Who changed because of it? Who now sees the world differently? These are the metrics that matter, because from them, all else follows. Wealth doesn't respond to hunger. It responds to usefulness. And Elon, reborn from zero, would choose to be the most useful person in the room, every day, for as long as it takes. Because when you build that kind of gravity, money is no longer chased. It arrives. Strategic leverage. Partnering smart, not expensive. Starting from zero, Elon Musk wouldn't waste a second pretending he could build an empire alone. He would understand immediately. Greatness is never a solo project. But instead of seeking investors with cash, he'd seek people with fire in their eyes. People who have what money can't buy. He wouldn't post job ads. He wouldn't host pitch competitions. He would look quietly for misaligned geniuses, those who haven't yet found a vision big enough to match their potential. Coders who work in silence but dream in systems. Artists trapped in soulless design roles. Strategists hiding in underpaid positions with unspoken brilliance burning inside them. Musk would not recruit. He would invite. He would say, "I don't have money, but I have a mission. One that will stretch you, demand more from you, and give you something rare, meaning." And the right people, those tired of building things that don't matter, would lean in. Because the hunger for purpose runs deeper than the hunger for profit. And Elon knows how to feed that hunger. He would sit across from a potential partner and paint a vision so clear, so contagious, that they could see themselves inside it. Not as employees, not as freelancers, but as co-architects of something that doesn't yet exist, but should. He would say, "We're not building fast. We're building right. We're not chasing noise. We're building something that will whisper to the right people in a loud world." And those words would attract the rare few who are done chasing titles, who want to leave fingerprints on something real. Musk would form a team not of experts with degrees, but of obsessives with scars. People who failed before, learned fast, and never gave up. People who don't need permission to move forward. And with this lean alliance, he would unlock something far more powerful than money. Strategic leverage. A developer who codes with the efficiency of 5. A designer who turns abstract ideas into emotional clarity. A marketer who speaks the exact language of a silent market. He wouldn't need 10 average contributors. He'd build with 3 exceptional ones. And each person would carry weight, because each one would believe they're not being used, they're being trusted. That's the difference. There would be no hierarchy, no politics, no layers of bureaucracy. Just a flat battlefield with shared risk and shared rewards. Every decision would be made at the speed of conversation. Every task completed with full ownership. Every win celebrated as a collective step forward, not a personal notch on the belt. And when gaps appear, as they always do, Elon wouldn't cover them with band-aids. He'd cover them with relationships. Strategic alliances with people and platforms that offer reach, speed, or expertise he doesn't yet have. He might trade access for visibility. He might offer co-branding instead of cash. He might exchange a cut of future profits for a tool or platform today. But every move would be made with precision. Every deal, grounded in mutual upside, not desperation. Because when you're clear on the mission, you don't beg. You align. And alignment beats compensation every time. That's how he would build a machine greater than the sum of its parts. A team where the glue isn't a paycheck, but a promise. What we're building together matters. He'd hold weekly calls, not to check boxes, but to calibrate minds. What's working? What's slowing us down? What are we missing? Because in teams like this, candor is oxygen. There would be tension, but not the toxic kind. The creative kind. The kind that pushes ideas into their strongest shape. And the best part? The cost of building wouldn't be measured in dollars. It would be measured in belief. Every hour spent would be an investment of conviction. Every late night would be a vote cast for the future. Every draft, design, and debug would be an act of faith in the outcome. This is the kind of leverage that can't be outsourced. It's not found on job boards or in VC meetings. It's built in the trenches, one aligned human at a time. And when people ask later, how did he build all this without funding? The answer would be simple. He built with people who were tired of building meaningless things. He offered them a seat at the table, not in exchange for resumes, but in exchange for resonance. Because Musk knows the truth. Capital fades. Connections compound. And a team forged in purpose will always outperform one built on payroll. That's not just strategy. That's leverage. Learning in the fire. Feedback over ego. Elon Musk's relationship with failure is not what most people imagine. While many fear being wrong or appearing incompetent, Musk embraces these moments. In fact, if he found himself starting from zero again, he would recognize that failure is his most valuable resource. It's the fire through which all meaningful progress is forged. Unlike most, who try to avoid mistakes at all costs, Musk actively seeks them out, knowing that each misstep holds within it a lesson vital for moving forward. The fear of being wrong doesn't stifle his progress. It accelerates it. He knows that those who refuse to fail are the ones who will never succeed. For Musk, failure isn't something to be avoided. It's something to be courted. From the moment he sets out to create something new, Elon would ask for feedback, not from friends or supporters who will be kind, but from the real world, the market, and the very people who might call his ideas crazy. This brutal honesty isn't something to be shielded from, but welcomed. He would send prototypes into the world with one goal: to see what breaks, what needs improvement, what fails to resonate. He doesn't just want compliments. He wants data. The feedback loop is not something that slows him down. It propels him forward, allowing him to adapt and pivot with lightning speed. And this feedback comes in all forms. From customers, competitors, industry experts, or even complete strangers on the internet. Musk would test every idea, no matter how bold, against reality. He would gather insights from every angle, finding patterns in criticisms and spotting the areas that need fixing. What sets Musk apart from others who would retreat into their comfort zones is his ability to act swiftly and with resolve after receiving critical feedback. It isn't enough to just listen to criticism. He would internalize it, see it for what it is, an opportunity to improve. The goal isn't to be right, but to be better. If it takes a dozen iterations, 100 missteps, or thousands of hours of trial and error, so be it. The sooner he can make mistakes, the sooner he can correct them. This relentless pursuit of betterment would become the foundation of his success. Elon Musk doesn't protect his ego. He protects progress. This distinction is crucial. Ego, for him, is a hindrance. Ego would slow him down. Ego would demand validation before results. Ego would want perfection before execution. But Musk knows that perfection doesn't exist in the early stages of any great endeavor. And so, he would tear down his own ego, constantly reminding himself that his sense of self-worth isn't tied to being right. It's tied to moving forward. His process would look like this: create, test, fail, iterate, and repeat. There would be no shame in failure, no hesitation to abandon what doesn't work. He would embrace the concept of failing fast and failing often, as long as each failure brings him closer to a solution. His willingness to accept mistakes as part of the process means he wouldn't stop at the first sign of failure. He would embrace the heat, learn from it, and emerge stronger. In fact, one of Musk's core strategies is to consistently test his ideas in the fire of public scrutiny and market pressure. The faster he gets burned, the quicker he can learn from it. This allows him to refine his strategies, pivot when necessary, and keep moving forward without wasting time on the false security of perfection. For Musk, failure isn't a sign of weakness or incompetence. It's the most effective teacher he has, and he would study its lessons with the utmost attention. Feedback, for Musk, is not about hearing what he wants to hear. It's about hearing what he needs to hear, what works, what doesn't, and why. This approach requires vulnerability. It requires a mental toughness that doesn't crumble under criticism. It's not about saving face or looking competent. It's about uncovering truth, learning from mistakes, and building a better version of whatever he's working on. This willingness to put himself in a position where he might look foolish, all in the pursuit of learning and growing, is what would set him apart as he climbs from nothing to success once again. Every entrepreneur, every business, every product Musk builds would be subjected to the harsh scrutiny of the world, but that scrutiny is a mirror. It shows him where he can improve, where he can create more value, and where his assumptions were wrong. In fact, the more brutally honest the feedback, the more he would welcome it. He doesn't want to be coddled, he wants to be challenged. Unlike most people who may feel paralyzed by criticism, Elon would take it in stride. He would ask for the hard truths and put them into action immediately. The market isn't there to praise him. It's there to point out flaws, to demand better. Musk would view these criticisms not as failures of his ideas but as essential signposts along the path to success. Musk would surround himself with people who won't hesitate to call him out. He wouldn't seek approval from yes-men. Instead, he would seek the candid, sometimes painful honesty that reveals true insights. He knows that in order to succeed, he has to create something that will withstand scrutiny, criticism, and competition. He would never allow his ego to stand in the way of progress, because he knows that when the feedback flows freely, it accelerates growth. There is no final product for Elon Musk, only constant improvement. His ventures would be living, evolving entities that grow through continuous feedback loops. And with every cycle, they would get closer to perfection. Not through flawless execution but through relentless, iterative improvement driven by the lessons learned from mistakes. In the end, what would make Musk successful isn't his ability to avoid failure but his ability to embrace it as an essential part of the process. His genius isn't in being right from the start. It's in the courage to keep adjusting, keep learning, and keep moving forward, no matter how many mistakes he makes along the way. This mindset, feedback over ego, would become his greatest tool. Systems over hustle. If Elon Musk were to start from zero, he wouldn't be the type of person to follow the conventional path of relentless hustle. He wouldn't believe that the key to success lies in working longer hours or being busier than everyone else. Instead, Musk's approach would be rooted in something far more strategic: systems. At the core of his mindset would be the understanding that time is a finite resource. No matter how much effort one exerts, there are only so many hours in a day. The idea of outworking everyone else sounds noble, but it's ultimately unsustainable. What Musk would realize, and what he would focus on from the beginning, is that true freedom, true wealth, is not built from how hard he works, but from how effectively he works, and how efficiently he uses systems to multiply his efforts. To build from nothing, Musk wouldn't pour every ounce of his energy into manual labor. Instead, he would immediately begin laying the groundwork for automation. From day one,
His goal would be to set up mechanisms that allow him to scale his impact without scaling his personal time. The goal would be to make his work less about the sweat he pours into it and more about how well he can set up processes that carry the work forward without him. One of the first things he would do is look for tools that can automate as many repetitive tasks as possible. These tools could range from email sequences that nurture potential customers to landing pages that convert traffic into leads. From content delivery pipelines to customer support automation, Musk would immediately set the foundation for systems that run independently, allowing him to focus on high-level strategy and creative vision. This approach is different from the hustle culture that so many entrepreneurs idolize, where the belief is that if you just work hard enough, success will come. Musk understands that working long hours might get things done, but it doesn't build lasting value. What truly builds value is creating a system that can operate without constant input, freeing him from being trapped by his own efforts. For Musk, freedom comes from systems. The ability to work smarter, not harder. The ability to delegate responsibilities to automated processes that continue running in the background, even when he's asleep. By setting up these structures from the outset, he would maximize his efficiency, allowing him to focus on creating long-term vision and innovation instead of being bogged down in day-to-day operations. From a practical standpoint, the first thing Musk would do is identify all the tasks that can be automated. These might include administrative functions like data entry, customer relationship management, and email follow-ups. But he wouldn't stop there. He'd also look at areas where technology can be used to amplify his efforts. From AI-powered chatbots that answer customer inquiries to machine learning algorithms that analyze data and suggest improvements. Once the foundation for these systems is laid, Musk would begin to move his focus away from executing tasks himself and toward refining the systems. He'd ensure that each tool or process he uses integrates seamlessly with the others, creating a network of interconnected systems that work together to push his goals forward. This would allow him to scale rapidly, as the growth of his business wouldn't be tied directly to how many hours he personally puts in. But Musk's genius wouldn't just be in setting up systems to handle the work. He would also design them with flexibility in mind. A rigid system that can't adapt to change is just as ineffective as no system at all. Musk would understand that the world is constantly evolving, and so his systems would need to evolve with it. The ability to adjust, tweak, and optimize these processes in response to new data, new challenges, and new opportunities would be key to his long-term success. Musk would also focus on building scalable systems that allow him to generate value on a larger scale than any individual effort could. Take a simple product launch, for instance. Instead of manually contacting each potential customer or handling every sale personally, he would set up an automated funnel that delivers content, nurtures leads, and makes sales on autopilot. While others might be stuck answering emails and making phone calls, Musk's system would be working for him, making connections and closing deals 24/7. But even more importantly, Musk would focus on building systems that allow for maximum leverage. He wouldn't simply automate tasks. He would seek to build processes that multiply his reach and impact. A great system doesn't just allow someone to do the work of one person, it allows them to do the work of many. It creates an environment where multiple streams of value can be generated simultaneously, without requiring direct oversight or intervention. The true beauty of systems for Musk is that they allow you to focus on what matters most: high-level strategy. While others hustle to get through their to-do lists, Musk would be freed up to dream bigger, envision larger goals, and innovate more boldly. The systems he built would handle the necessary day-to-day operations, leaving him with the mental and emotional energy to think about the future and explore new frontiers. Musk would also view systems as a form of leverage. By creating processes that continue working while he focuses on other aspects of his business, he would gain a multiplier effect. His ability to create value wouldn't be limited by how many hours he can work, but by how many hours his systems can work for him. This leverage is a game changer, and it would allow him to scale not just incrementally, but exponentially. In his quest to build wealth, Musk would look at systems as the ultimate investment. Instead of relying on brute force or endless hours of hard work, he would invest in tools, technology, and automation. With this approach, he could go from nothing to something in a fraction of the time it would take if he tried to rely solely on manual effort. In summary, Musk's strategy would be simple but powerful. Instead of outworking the world, he would outsystem it. He would create mechanisms that run smoothly and efficiently, multiplying his impact without requiring him to work longer hours. And in doing so, he would not just build wealth, he would build an empire. Scaling what works. When Elon Musk embarks on a journey to rebuild his empire, One of the first principles he would embrace is the importance of focusing on what works.
It's easy to get distracted by shiny new opportunities or the temptation to jump on the latest trend. But Musk's approach is more disciplined. He wouldn't waste his energy trying 100 different strategies. Instead, once he identifies a single idea or venture that begins to show real potential, he would double down on it. His focus would shift from spreading his efforts thin to concentrating on the one thing that is truly delivering value and generating revenue. Scaling what works is about finding the few things that have momentum and nurturing them with all the resources and energy needed to amplify their impact. Musk wouldn't waste time on experimenting with new ideas that might not succeed. He would evaluate his results, and once he sees something start to resonate, he would give it everything he has. This approach of rapid iteration and honing in on the right path would be critical to his success. At this stage, it's not about being overly conservative or risk-averse. It's about recognizing the signs that something is working and then accelerating that process at full speed. The initial steps, though small, are already laying the groundwork for something much larger. Musk would recognize that growth doesn't always start with a loud bang. Sometimes, the early wins are subtle but filled with great potential. Rather than spreading himself thin by diversifying into multiple directions, he would turn his attention to perfecting what's already working. Once the signal of success is clear, Musk would act quickly to scale it. He would start by optimizing every facet of the customer experience. He would carefully analyze every interaction, every touchpoint, and ensure that the journey from discovery to purchase, and beyond, is as smooth, efficient, and delightful as possible. Every moment of engagement would be seen as an opportunity to strengthen his brand and build deeper trust with customers. This is where the rubber meets the road. In understanding what customers truly value and refining the product or service to meet those needs more effectively than anyone else. Adding layers of service is another key tactic Musk would employ to scale what works. It's not just about increasing the volume of what he's offering. It's about making the offering better, more comprehensive, and more valuable to the customer. This could involve adding complementary services, offering premium features, or creating a higher level of support that adds an extra layer of value. Musk understands that once you have a customer, your next task is to keep them and enhance their experience so that they return, buy more, and even refer others. Layering services doesn't just grow revenue, it builds loyalty, a crucial element in long-term business success. Next, Musk would expand by exploring adjacent markets. This is one of his signature moves, finding areas that are closely related to his current success but allow for broader market penetration. If his initial product or service is gaining traction in one niche, he would quickly identify other segments where that same offering could apply. This strategic expansion into adjacent areas helps to rapidly increase market share without completely reinventing the wheel. The goal is to leverage existing momentum and extend it into new territories where similar needs exist but are not yet fully addressed. Raising prices would also be part of Musk's strategy. This doesn't mean a drastic increase, but rather a calculated adjustment based on the value that's being delivered. As the product or service becomes more refined, more efficient, and more desirable, the price naturally increases to reflect its worth. Musk understands that businesses can't just focus on customer acquisition. Profitability must also be considered. By strategically raising prices, while ensuring the customer perceives the value to be aligned with the cost, Musk would scale the business's revenue without alienating his core audience. In parallel to raising prices, he would also explore licensing his system. Instead of constantly reinvesting all of the revenue into expansion, Musk would identify the intellectual property, processes, or models that could be licensed to other businesses. Licensing can provide a steady stream of passive income while expanding the reach of his work without the need for additional direct involvement. The power of licensing lies in its ability to generate income through partnerships, which allows Musk to scale his impact and reach without exponentially increasing his own workload. It's about leveraging other people's efforts and capital to spread the success further. However, scaling isn't just about increasing output or revenues, it's also about ensuring the business can maintain its quality and efficiency as it grows. Musk would not rely on duplicating himself, as no single individual can manage the complexities of scaling a business indefinitely. Instead, he would invest heavily in training others, building a team of skilled professionals who share his vision and understand the principles that underpin his success. He would train his team to replicate his methods, allowing them to take ownership of key areas of the business while maintaining a high standard of execution. Training others is a critical aspect of scaling. Musk understands that building a great business isn't about doing everything yourself. It's about creating systems and processes that others can follow, and fostering a culture of innovation and excellence within his team. By empowering others to contribute at a high level, Musk can ensure that the business scales without losing its core vision and values. A great leader doesn't just manage. He inspires and educates, ensuring that everyone in the company is aligned with the overall mission. The shift from $10,000 to $100,000, and eventually from $100,000 to the edge of seven figures, is the result of this strategic approach to scaling. It's not a linear process. It's an exponential one. As Musk optimizes, expands into adjacent markets, increases the value of his offering, raises prices intelligently, and builds a strong team, the growth becomes self-reinforcing. Each step builds on the last, creating a snowball effect that accelerates as the business gains more traction. In conclusion, scaling what works is about a laser-like focus on what's delivering value and growth. Musk's approach isn't about constant experimentation or chasing every opportunity that comes his way. It's about quickly recognizing what's working, pouring all resources into it, optimizing it at every stage, and finding ways to multiply the efforts of others. This is the path to significant and sustainable growth. A path that takes a small, successful venture and turns it into something much larger, more impactful, and ultimately, more profitable. Reaching the first million. And starting again. Reaching his first $1 million, for Elon Musk, wouldn't be a moment of triumphant celebration. It would be just another step, a beginning rather than an end. His relationship with money is different from most. It's not about the accumulation of wealth or indulging in luxury. It's about what that money represents. The proof of concept, the validation of his efforts, and the capability to build something bigger. In Musk's world, success is not measured by the balance in his bank account, but by the impact he's creating and the systems he's building. For him, the first million would be a reflection of the power of his mindset, the value of the systems he's put in place, and the incredible force of his relentless drive. Unlike many others who would rush to spend their first major earnings on material goods, expensive cars, luxury watches, or designer clothes, Musk would see his first million as an opportunity to reinvest. He wouldn't view that money as an end to his efforts. It would simply be a milestone on the way to achieving even greater things. His focus would shift immediately from personal consumption to scaling his mission and furthering the impact of his work. The first thing he would do is upgrade the systems that have allowed him to succeed so far. Every part of his operation, every tool, every process would undergo a careful review. With this newfound capital, he would enhance the efficiency and capacity of what he's already built, making sure that everything he touches runs smoother, faster, and more effectively. But it wouldn't just be about improving what's working. It would also be about investing in areas of potential that haven't yet reached their peak. He knows that growth comes from investing in the infrastructure that supports it, and the first million would be a chance to solidify that foundation. Musk's focus on systems is integral to his strategy for scaling. The more efficient the system, the more he can produce with less effort, the more value he can create with less input. Every dollar reinvested into better processes is a dollar that will pay dividends down the line. The systems allow him to create leverage, where his input doesn't necessarily have to increase in direct proportion to his output. And with systems that work, Musk can expand faster than his competitors, because while others are struggling to keep up with operational demands, he's already building for the future. In parallel with upgrading systems, Musk would also focus on empowering others. Having already seen the value in bringing together a talented, driven team, his first million would be an opportunity to attract even more skilled individuals who share his vision. He would understand that true success is never about the work of one individual. It's about the collective effort of a team that believes in the mission and is willing to work tirelessly to bring it to life. Reinvesting in people, in hiring exceptional talent, would be central to Musk's strategy moving forward. By empowering others, he would not only accelerate the growth of his business but also spread his mindset and vision further. The right people, with the right systems, can create something much greater than any individual could ever achieve. Musk knows this, and his focus on team building would be a critical factor in turning his first million into something much larger. It's not just about hiring people for a paycheck, it's about creating a culture where everyone feels like they are part of something transformative and significant. Dreaming bigger is another key part of the equation. Once he reaches the first million, it wouldn't be about getting comfortable. The real goal for Musk is always pushing the boundaries of what's possible, imagining new horizons, and striving to break through those limits. With the capital he's now accumulated and the systems he's put in place, he'd dream bigger than ever. He'd look beyond what's immediately achievable and start thinking about how to impact entire industries, or even change the world. This is where ambition and vision collide, where the first million becomes not a destination but a launchpad for even greater endeavors.
For Musk, dreaming bigger is not just about having bigger goals, it's about constantly challenging the status quo. He would look at every industry, every market, and think, how can I disrupt this? How can I make this better, faster, more efficient, more accessible? His relentless drive to innovate would be reignited by the success he's achieved so far, propelling him to think bigger, to take more risks, and to aim higher. The first million is merely a reminder that anything is possible when you combine hard work with the right mindset. One of the most important realizations that Musk would have after reaching his first million is that the true power lies not in the wealth itself, but in the knowledge and experiences that wealth has allowed him to gain. He would know, deep down, that even if he lost it all tomorrow, he could rebuild it from scratch. He'd have something that no one could ever take away from him: his mindset. It's not about the money, it's about the ability to think, adapt, and innovate. The systems he's built and the relentless drive that fuels him are his true assets. And these are the things that will carry him forward no matter what. The beauty of Musk's approach is that the first million is not a finish line. It's merely a point in time that marks the beginning of an even more ambitious journey. Each milestone achieved is simply an opportunity to grow more, to refine the processes that lead to success, and to expand the vision for what's possible. For Musk, the first million is a reminder that the true goal is never the money itself but the impact he's creating, the systems he's developing, and the mindset that enables him to continue this cycle of creation, growth, and reinvention. In conclusion, reaching the first million for Elon Musk would be an opportunity to reinvest in what works and to build upon the foundation he's already created. It wouldn't be a moment of celebration, but a moment of reflection, of looking at what's been accomplished and deciding what's next. And for Musk, what's next is always bigger, more ambitious, and more transformative than anyone could ever predict. Because for him, success is a journey that never ends. It's a cycle of creation, failure, learning, and growth that continues to repeat itself, fueled by the relentless drive to innovate and disrupt the world.
A 5-second message. Are you in debt?
Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind.